Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat Five segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. What is up? Welcome back to Drummers on Drumming, a podcast powered by Big Fat Snare Drum. We're back with another installment of the Drum Panel, and this week was fun. I have my co-host Eric Urrea and a returning guest multiple times. I think he's been on the podcast more than anyone else besides Eric. It's Gunnar Olsen, and he just got back from his tour with Puscifer, Primus, and A Perfect Circle. Yeah, in this conversation, we talk about how we navigate personalizing drum parts live for songs we didn't track ourselves while still respecting the original recordings, and the balance between improvisation and replication. Let's see, behind the scenes of the Primus Puscifer Perfect Circle tour, with Gunnar being at the center of a lot of major drum world headlines. He also talks about the surreal story of the call to play on the Bruce Springsteen record, navigating feedback in the studio versus live gigs, and why context always matters. Gunnar's candid reflection after a rough wedding gig and how it reignited his desire to practice, blending live drums with electronic drums. It's all here, and of course, so much more. So I also contradict myself pretty badly within the first few minutes, which is fun to listen back to, because I didn't realize I did it. So see if you can catch that. And this is an episode where Eric doesn't get to talk that much. It's basically me asking a bunch of questions to Gunnar, but this is going to be part 1 of part 2, because we ended up talking for a long time. So hopefully Eric will be back talking more next week, and I'll see you then, or you'll hear me then. Bye. Cheers. Bye. Cheers. Bye. Cheers. I was playing a show recently. I was watching one of the drummers on the bill play the songs, and they sounded exactly like the record. He's executing it perfectly. And then I realized halfway through that's like, that was not how I approach the Eve 6 songs. Obviously, there's certain parts of those songs, especially if you're a fan, and I got to nail those. But I really do try and make it the next version of its life. It's like there's the recorded version, then I always try and make it fun. And so sometimes I compare myself to these drummers that sound perfect. The point of it is just I'm getting better. Actually, that Max conversation that Eric was a part of as well really helped me with my taste and just accepting who I am. And I need to text him that what he said on that episode actually, like in real time, helped me the last few weeks kind of get in my own skin a little bit. So thank you, Max.
Well, I also think when you like get a gig, say like an Eve 6 gig, like a legacy gig, right? I'm sure at first you learn stuff pretty verbatim. Mm-hmm. And then over time, you kind of start to forget. Yeah, there's like probably the same fills you're playing every show. But over time, you kind of start forgetting maybe the exact kick part in this one song, in this one verse. And it starts to become your own thing. I always find it like funny to watch like videos of when I like joined a band early on, and I know I'm playing like, oh, like that's because I was listening to that record 50 times before these gigs, and I'm playing my version of that part, and then you see it like 4 years later, and I'm like, oh, like I'm actually like playing the wrong part here, but it's turned into that part. And it's what the whole band is used to now. And I don't even think the band would notice that I'm playing it different. It's just your own playing seeps into it.
Yeah, it's like a game of telephone with yourself.
Yes. I feel like that's the sweet spot if, the band allows it. And there's some bands like my space mate Kyle was on, who I share a studio with, Kyle Yanner. He was talking about a gig. I can't remember the band name, which is probably for the best. But he was saying like he had to play literally all the fills. That's what the artist wants every show. I have a hard time with that just because my brain doesn't work that way quite the same anymore. Like we have all this stuff that we naturally do. And I think that's the hardest thing to do is play a literal drum part fills for an entire set. It almost feels restrictive, but that's the gig, and I don't know.
I feel a lot of times that kind of thing also betrays the spirit of the instrument too, in a lot of ways. This instrument was like born in an era of improvisation and just kind of like making things up. And to me, it's like, it's exactly what you're saying, where it's you kind of focus in on the spirit of a part for a certain song, but then you leave those little windows where you can kind of add in your own embellishments and flavor and improvisation moments.
But hey, Eric, I'll push back on that. So respecting the instrument is perhaps respecting the fact that the drum part is perfect. Like the producer just nailed it.
Sure.
And there's people in the audience that in order to feel the thing that the drums would give them, they want that fucking part to be perfect. So you're actually doing, a service to the instrument by not doing a Pat Boone, Debby Boone instead of a Debby Boone, Pat. You know what I mean?
Debby Boone, Pat. That's a sick fill, man.
Unfortunately, I can't copyright it. So literally, I have no legal standing for that not to be the new Puscifer intro. All right. Well, first of all, I guess second of all, whatever. It was your birthday yesterday, Eric. I just saw it on Instagram as I was going to log in. So I think you strategically did that to make me feel like shit. But happy birthday, man.
Thank you. I try to keep it under wraps. I usually don't. Those days you get like 40 text messages and you're like, I can't spend the day doing. I'm sorry, but
that's actually a really good point. All right, Gunnar. So you're a new guest. Let's do the honorable guest first question, and it's if you could have a drum or a piece of drum gear from throughout history, what would you want?
So I was listening to, I don't know, probably 2 podcasts ago of you guys doing this, and I was like, oh yeah, I've never thought about that. So I had a little time to think, and it's funny, Ben, you texted me yesterday, like, want to jump on the podcast? And I was like, oh, perfect. I was just thinking about my answer for that. I got to give 2. First one is the late 80s Tama kit that Lars Ulrich played, the like dark gray and Justice for All era kit. I feel like there's a lot of new cars that are this gray right now on the streets. It's like very like hip dark gray car color right now, but it's like dark gray, all black hardware, double kick, 4 up, 2 down. I don't know. I always thought it was the coolest kit.
If you could get a Yamaha kit right now, 24, 12, and 18, is that your last little thing?
Yeah.
But Yamaha would make it for you in that gray. Would you still want a red kit, or would you be like, fuck yeah, that gray?
Well, Yamaha was doing in the 80s, they were doing quartz gray, which is a little lighter than that, which is pretty sweet. It's funny, My newest kit is actually white, which is, another signature Lars color. So
yeah,
I don't think I'd actually want a kit that color because I feel like under lights, it might not look as cool as you want it to. There is something about a red kit where like every time you set up, you're just like, oh, that's fucking awesome. I say that because I've been touring with a red Yamaha recording custom for the last 2 tours, and just everyone is just always like, fucking looks great.
It's a sports car.
Yeah. So there's that. And then I'm going to send you the other thing. It's the drum set that Herb used in the My Name is Mud video.
Okay.
And I don't know if you guys have seen this video. I sent it to the text thread.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
I think it was like a modified percussion, like rims kit. Do you remember those?
Whoa.
They were in the 90s. They were like, it was literally just like the rim of a drum and a drum head. It looks like he has like a kick and like almost like another kick mounted in front of him.
These pictures will all be in the show notes, by the way, people, so you can go check those out and follow along with us. But yeah, this is crazy.
I want those boom stands. That rules.
Yeah, me too. With that kit, did he still have his little bell in front of him?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, like looking back, I understood that, you're not really playing when you film a video.
Yeah.
But there also was like the sound of his drums could also probably be made with that kit.
Oh, okay.
MTV was so big when I was a kid. So like I would associate when I listen to the songs, the videos very often. So when I hear that song, I picture that kit, which I realize makes no sense, but that's also how my brain works and probably why I like it so much.
Yeah. I mean, you went on tour with Herb not too long ago. Did you bring that up? Was there any sort of story about that music video that he told you about?
Well, the only kid I asked him about is I saw Primus when I was like 12 or 13 at Woodstock 94, this very
Yes.
like seminal performance, like people throwing mud. And I asked him about that kit. It was like this huge pork pie kit, and he had like a gong drum. And I was just asking, I was like, oh, you don't bring the gong drum out anymore on tour, you know, it's just like I saw you when I was a kid.
Like me. I ask good questions.
Yeah, it was cute. My mom came to the Red Rock show on that tour, and like I introduced her to Primus, and you know, it was like pretty cool full circle moment. You know, I was like, oh, this is Tim, the drummer, and she was like, were you in the band at Woodstock? We saw you there. I was like, Mom, you didn't see them. I saw them. Mom, you're embarrassing me.
And yourself.
It was no, it was so sweet. He was like, yeah, I was there. You know.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Moms are the best.
Moms are the best.
Well, Gunnar, can you tell us a little bit about why your last tour perhaps was a little unique?
So the tour I've just been on, I play in a band called Puscifer, and we toured with our singer Maynard. Keenan also has a band called A Perfect Circle. So it's Primus, Puscifer, and A Perfect Circle. So right there, it's pretty cool, you know, like going on tour with Josh Freese. And so we did the tour last year, which blew my mind. And like got to spend a lot of time with Tim Alexander, like not their original drummer, but like in my mind, the core drummer. So like watching Primus every night was amazing. Playing every night, watching Josh was amazing. That tour was especially cool for me because Josh left halfway through the tour to play Foo Fighters shows, and so I played half the tour playing for Puscifer and A Perfect Circle, which was pretty fucking cool. And then this tour was like, since that tour, Tim quit the band. Primus did this pretty now famous drum search for a new drummer. So like I literally watched John, their new drummer's like first 20 shows with the band. And it was pretty cool to like see him like literally doing what we're talking about, like him learning a catalog of songs and figuring out like what parts do I put my creative voice into, what parts do I need to play the same every night.
Because not sorry to interrupt you, but like during those drum things, they're not a legacy band. They're still writing and want to be creative.
Yes.
So they encouraged him to be himself, but how do you grapple with that? Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like they wanted him to do his own thing, but they also want him to have like, you need to have an ice bell and like a couple octobans.
Exactly.
And like, It was mentally weird for me just because like we were basically doing a second leg of the tour. And as someone who was a huge Primus fan, it was hard to kind of just like accept that it wasn't Tim, and not even that Tim played the same parts every night. It was different. It was cool to see like the choices he made, and like there'd be songs where like Josh and I would be like air drumming, like Tim's old parts, and he'd play a different part. It's like, oh, right, like this is just different now. So yeah, there was a lot of like hubbub going into the tour, knowing like Primus has this new drummer, and then like also halfway through the tour, like Josh found out he wasn't in the Foo Fighters, so that was all like there was all this like drummer joining, quitting band, like I don't know, fire. Like it felt like a lot of like drummer drama.
Yeah, you were in the epicenter of like headline news in the drum world for like 6 weeks, man.
And I'm like, and I'm Gunnar, and I play the drums in the middle.
But I have a red drum set. It's really
yeah. And hopefully I'm not getting fired or joining any other bands. So
dude, don't sneeze on me, guys. This is like whatever you're fucking hearing.
But all that aside, I mean, it was really, both of those guys were inspiring in so many ways to see like how hard John was, he was living his dream, like joining this band that he loves. And it's kind of the first big band he's been in. Like he was going to all these cities he's never been to. So like, it was cool to see that. It was really cool to see how Josh, I don't want to say how he took it, but like, I know it was a shock to him, but also like, I think Ben, I was telling you like that he knew for a few shows before he announced it. And I remember, Josh is just like annoyingly great. He really is so consistent, and it's inspiring to be, it keeps you at a certain level. Like I'm sharing the stage with these people that are fucking great drummers. And I just remember thinking there was 2 shows in a row. I guess it was after he found out before he announced it that he was just like murdering it. In hindsight, I'm like, oh, he was like, oh yeah, you think that's going to fuck me up? Like, I'm going to show up and fucking destroy. But he hadn't said anything. So Joe Slaby is my drum tech. He texts for me and Josh. And I remember like the setup of the show is each band plays like 3 or 4 songs at a time. And so you have a lot of time to kind of watch the other band. Well, not a lot of time, but like it's very like voyeuristic. Like you watch a band play a few songs, then you play. So there's a lot of little breaks. I just remember going over to Joe like, dude, Josh is fucking like, it really made me like, okay, like some nights, like maybe you don't have it and, oh man, I'm like, I didn't get to sleep last night. And it's like, oh no fucking excuses. Like this guy is like putting on like a clinic for why everyone's going to be talking about him in 2 days about what the fuck were you guys doing? So yeah, the tour was great. I don't know. I'm still kind of like recovering mentally from it because it's the best. It was just all the bands had the best time. And, I got to play some songs with Primus and like, just like a lot of like just really cool fucking shit. And just happy to be here.
Hearing Josh do that just it was an internal thing that he was dealing with, but you noticed that he was playing better, or not better, but you know what I mean, more powerfully. Yeah. That like gets me emotional. That like that's how he had to deal with it, and it just like that's why fucking music's amazing.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he's happy too that it happened then because he had that outlet to immediately be like, I need to release this energy.
Yeah. I mean, it's rare that you get fired from a famous band while you're on tour with a famous band. So it's like, yeah, I would recommend if that's how it's going to happen, I would pick that too. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Big Fat Snare Drum, specifically the Big Fat Snare Drum Bargain Bin. We're talking brand new heads that aren't scratched or dented. We just have too many, so get them for cheap. We've also dropped some new full coverage textile cloth designs, and our Pick 3 bundles are now live. It's an easy way to outfit your whole kit with many of our most popular heads. Just choose one of these 3 size sets, 10, 12, 14, 12, 14, 16, or 13, 14, 16. Go check out all of that at bigfatsnaredrum.com. Well, Gunnar, I'll ask the second pretty common question that we ask new guests. If you could be a fly on the wall to any record, what would that be?
The one that just came to mind was In Utero by Nirvana. My first, I was like, oh, never mind, because that was like the record that got me into them. But I think In Utero would be really cool because that was the record that had to follow Nevermind, and they were making a clear decision to do something left of center maybe by industry standards, but like they wanted to record it with Steve Albini and have it be really raw and just kind of be the opposite in their minds to Nevermind, which was so clean and like, I mean, perfect sounding. I still listen to that record. Like, how did they do this in like the early 90s, without all this like help of technology? I would be curious if it was just like, I think the story is like they just showed up really well rehearsed and just would like bang shit out and try to not do too many overdubs, which that's something I'm kind of craving right now. Like the next record I do, I want to like really try to do something like that, just things are getting so perfect that it's just starting to get a little boring again. So like whenever I put that record on again, it's just always such like a breath of fresh air. Just like you can tell everything's recorded in a room and just like, it's just, so I think I would pick that one.
How much does Puscifer allow you to experiment live?
I always come in knowing to a T like the exact drum performance. But since I now know Matt Mitchell is, the guitarist, kind of almost musical director. He records everything, he mixes it, he puts together the light show, he's very hands-on. So I've come to learn a lot of the drum takes that are on their records comes from either having drummers try a bunch of ideas and he finds the stuff he likes, or it's written around a very specific kind of electronic groove and having a drummer play over that. So usually if I'm learning stuff, I'm learning it pretty verbatim. But now like over time, I've realized, oh, this like there's songs that like John Theodore played the drums on. So I'm playing like stuff that he just threw at a wall and then Matt liked it. So like I'm also like a huge John Theodore fan. So like going into a song like that, now I can at least have that in my mind. Like, oh, like I'm going to try to do my version of this, but it doesn't have to be exactly this because like it was coming from a place of trying an idea.
Yes.
But I like to come in, I like to come in knowing it like 100% and then also having like a separate folder in my brain of like the other things I want to do. So I like to kind of get in the door like the first couple times with this is what you're the most used to. And then maybe over time, like say, oh, I was thinking maybe this part that goes to a pad, what if we leave that on tracks and I play that part on the rims? And Matt's super open to that stuff. Like he likes it. Each tour I've done with the band has had kind of a different identity to the band. So the early tours, there was a lot more pads and triggers, and I was playing very specific parts. And then this last tour we just did, since this was with more organic bands like Primus, Perfect Circle, there was stuff we just kind of were like, let's just do the rock band version of this and not get too in the weeds with like triggers. And I mean, there was triggers, but like I had pads that I played like once a show rather than like on every song at a certain point, you know? That's the hard part is it's kind of like figuring out what are the rules. It comes down to like your own tastes, talking about taste, Ben. Like, I think like that was some of the reason they called me for the gig is they saw that I was in a world that would work with their taste. So it's allowing yourself to kind of not criticize, but like, like when someone's like, oh, don't do that. I really want this for that section. And then knowing like, well, I think I can do a little bit more here. And they might not ever bring it up,
How do you deal with, because we talked about it with Max and I think Eric was there, of course, constructive criticism. How do you deal with that?
I've been thinking about it recently. Like if I'm on a session, like my favorite kind of recording sessions to do, I show up, they don't even send me the song. Like they play it for me in the room.
Is that by your choice?
I mean, it's kind of been the way that I work with a lot of producers where it just kind of, it's like, hey man, are you around? And I go to the studio. Mm-hmm. And I've found now, like with certain producers, there's been a couple times they're like, oh, I can send you the song. And I'm like, why? Like, that's just not how we work. My ideal scenario, if it's more like, say like pop music, there's only like 5 different beats you're probably going to play, right? It's starting with that level. For stuff like that, I like to just hear it in the room. I feel like my brain retains it in this different way where I hear it 2 or 3 times and I can just go. When I get the audio in advance and there's maybe like a demo drum part, I don't know, my brain just starts like overthinking. I tend to do better just like, we just got to go. And in that situation, you could tell me like, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. Let's try something else. And it won't affect me. I'm in this like best idea wins. I'm hearing this song like for the first time. So like, I don't have any stake in the game. I want us all to get to this point where we're happy. And, we always record the first couple times I'm playing to the song. And that's my mind. Like, I won't even know the song half the time. Like maybe I've heard it once. If the song is good, when the chorus is coming, when the bridge is coming. So very often, like my first instincts work. And sometimes it's like immediately the producer's like, oh, that's great. And then sometimes I do it and they're like, oh, actually come back in. Let's listen back to what the demo drums were doing.
Let's just, I don't know. Let's just listen.
But what that enabled is like, I kind of built a little mental roadmap of the song while I was just playing along with it. And then it's a lot easier for me to like see what's working and what's not. In the studio, I kind of don't care. I just want it to be something we all like and works for the song. The opposite is like, maybe it's like a band that I'm playing with, maybe not even as a member, but like play live shows with, and maybe we go into the studio and I've started working up my own part. Or even like a Puscifer thing where like I play in a bunch of songs in their new record and they sent me stuff and like I had a few ideas, but again, for that, there were very specific drum demos, so we stuck to that. But my point is, like, if I have something that I've kind of worked on that I think is kind of cool, then it gets a little bit like, if they want to change that, it's kind of hard to, like, not feel a little bit of an ego, like, this is what it should be, right? So it's like, it's kind of not a real answer to the question. I think the more I put, like, my artistry into an idea that I like, it is a little harder to kind of like step back. It's just always that first moment of like, oh, do they not like me? It's like, it's just getting over that.
Well, to me, it's like when you question my art, AKA my idea, you're questioning me as an artist. And then you question me as, every decision I've ever made in my life,
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it's like parsing out whether you are brought onto a project because of you and your voice, or if you're brought on to be like a vessel for their voice.
And it could be both.
Exactly. Yeah.
And ideally, I feel like it should be both, right? Like,
For sure.
there's some bands that, like my band Mother Feather, I don't think I've ever had a single piece of feedback of what I should play or what I shouldn't play. I've just always written drum parts, and they're always like, great. And that's cool. But I do like it to be a collaboration.
Me too.
Sure.
I just find that, like, depending on where the collaboration happens, it's just a little easier for me to maybe like wrap my head around. But the older I get and the more I play my instrument, the drums, I feel like I'm trying to put myself in more situations where I'm uncomfortable. It's the only way I'm going to get better, only way I'm going to learn. So yeah, I'm trying to like be okay with those feelings and learn from those, like maybe like feelings of like, it rarely happens that like we're also talking about music, which is like supposed to be something people want to listen to. So it's like, yeah, like why not all work on the best version something can be? You know, like everyone's coming at it from a different point of view. Like I'm coming at it from like a drummer, but like I'm a big fan of just songs. So like I'm rarely trying to do something that's just like, this is cool for the drums and not cool for the song. Like it should always work together. Like that's why my head, like I can't really wrap my head around drum solos, because like the second the music stops, it's like, what now what? And I love to watch a great drum solo played by a drummer, but I've come to realize like if I'm playing like with a cover band and like there's a solo, like just keep playing the bass with me. Like give me something to like bounce off of, like, because that's where my brain is at in 2025. Like it just doesn't interest me, just the sound of drums. I want it to be conversation. I want it to react to something.
Gosh, you're going to make this into like a 9-hour episode with all the things I want to follow up on. But again, I'm just going to keep going backwards. So you saying just doing the first take and kind of just going with it. So this is a great segue into you recently being on some new Bruce Springsteen releases. So, and from what I gathered, either in our text or your Instagram posts, like that was the first take you did of that song, and you guys were listening back to it the first time when Bruce heard it. You tell the story.
I'm not 100% sure about what take it was. I've told this story a couple times, but the overall story is like my buddy Ross Peterson was one of Bruce's engineers. Very last minute call, hey, can you come to Jersey today? What? Yeah, I got to rent a car. Like, what's the session? He was being cagey about it. Turned out it was for the boss. Eventually, he was like, it's for the boss. You know, I was like, I have a rehearsal at 6. Like, I don't know. Like, he was like, it's the boss. Fucking get out of here. I get out there and I show up at his ranch, and he's got a studio and he's not there, which was like it kind of made it easier that he wasn't there. And I was also like, oh, he's not here. So they played me a song. Everything was finished, and there might have even been temp drums on it. But the producer was like, you know, we're going for a Glenn Campbell sound, you know, not a lot of drum fills, not a lot of crashes, just like holding down the fort. So it's a song called High Sierra. Play a take of it. You know, I finished. They're like, oh, cool, man, let's listen back. As I'm like walking back, Bruce walks in the room. He shows up unannounced. Everyone's like, oh, it's almost like they're like they caught us doing something. Like, Bruce, what are you doing here? You know? And I'm just like,
Bruce!
And I'm just like standing there, like he doesn't know me. He hasn't really like acknowledged me being there. I feel like really uncomfortable. And he showed up to hear songs from the record they were making, like to hear like the status of a few songs. And so like I sat there as they played him a few different songs. Eventually they're like, oh, that's Gunnar, by the way. And like I don't even think they told him I was a drummer. Like I don't think I even knew I was just recording. And I've told this story before, but the quick version is we listened to a song and they're like, okay, pull up the Matt Chamberlain version. So it's a song with Matt Chamberlain. Then they go, pull up the Steve Jordan version. So it's the same song, Steve Jordan playing. And I'm just like sitting there like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, you know.
Ashton Kutcher comes out, yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, and then he looks over at me, he goes, you want to give it a shot? Like, give me another option. And I was like, yeah. And I've told this before. I just went and I was like, I'm going to give him the Max Weinberg version because he's been playing with Max for 40 years.
Feels like home.
Yeah, like Matt sounded like Matt, Steve sounded like Steve. Both were usable, you know. I was like, option C is just like, I don't know, like really down the middle. And what I realized is I did a take and he liked it. And then we listened back and I saw his eyes were closed and he was kind of like, I was just like watching him listen to it. And then he was like, yeah, maybe do another one. And then I think the reason it worked is because he was in the room with me. He wasn't in the room with those guys. Those guys both did stuff remotely and sent it in. And it's like, here you go. Mm-hmm. Kind of like we're talking about, like, you wanted Steve Jordan, you get Steve Jordan, pay me, you know? So the fact that like I was in the room with him, I could do a few takes. He gave me maybe 1 or 2 notes. Like I maybe did 3 takes on this other song that's on the record, Western Stars. It's called Sleepy Joe's Cafe. So I think I did 3 takes and he's like, great. All right, we're done with that one. And I was like, okay. And then the producer goes, oh, actually, right before you got here, we did a take on High Sierra. So then we listened back to that take that I had done, like, you know, at that point, like an hour ago, which I never heard. So I'm like listening back, you know, that feeling when you're listening back to the take you just did, like with Bruce Springsteen, who's hearing it for the first time.
Oh yeah, that old.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like on his finished, like the song is finished. There's like strings and horn. It's like it's done, and then I'm just adding drums. So like when I was taking it, like I'm hearing his voice, just like this is fucking, like I'm not even supposed to be here. And I mean, maybe I did a second take, but I just remember I remember all of a sudden in the span of an hour, I was on 2 songs. I ended up doing 10 songs for that record. When the record came out like 5 years later after I did it. So I didn't think it was going to come out. Record came out in 2019. It's called Western Stars. So that was a huge moment. Obviously, like we filmed a concert film, like a great fucking year of my life. And then I found out he's putting out a 6-album, unreleased songs, 6-album record. He announced it in April, and I was looking at the song titles, and I was like looking at my emails with the union, and I was like, oh, like 3 of these song titles are song titles that I've played on. So I was like, maybe I'm on them. I don't know. It's been almost 10 years. And I reached out to some of the recording people, and I was like, hey, do you have any idea who played on the songs? And they're like, this guy, Rob Lebret, he was like, oh, I think Max might have played on a version of that song at some point. So in my mind, I just thought maybe they just redone them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, my buddy Jamie on Friday was like, hey, you're on the Springsteen record. And I like looked up all the credits. And sure enough, that song I did right before he showed up, that's on there. And some other song, which I don't remember recording at all, but sounds like me. So I was like, that's cool.
Well, it makes me feel good that, and maybe this is just everyone does this, but that they were like, no, for each song, we want to make sure that everyone that was in that session is late. I mean, that seems a little rare, but maybe just because he's old school.
That's why I joined the union. Like when I showed up that first day, they were like, oh, by the way, are you in the union? I was like, no. And they're like, all right, we're going to sign you up right now. And I think when you just get to that level, they need to have everything accounted for. And he also just seems like one of those, like he releases like books of like all the people and all the gear. And like, I think that's something that camp takes very seriously.
That's really cool.
I'm sure there's like probably, I haven't looked up all the credits, but there's probably not more than like 10 drummers. Cause he is, just knowing from my buddy Ross, who's worked with him for 20 years, like he's a loyal person. He likes to work with the people he works with. You know, new people come in, but it's, I mean, he could play with anybody, but he obviously likes to, you know, like that day, like some connection was made that he called me out like 3 or 4 more times. You know, it's like crazy.
Yeah, not surprised. I mean, it's still, even though you were doing Max Weinberg, that's Gunnar Olsen on that track, you know? Mm-hmm.
I mean, the best part is the 2 songs that came out on Friday. I think I played cross stick the whole song on both of them.
Nice.
And I'm basically playing one beat. It's like this, like very Glenn Campbell, like, it's almost like, it's like kind of country Western meets like lounge meets like bossa nova. And you just fucking rock it the whole song. And maybe you do like 2 fills. And then they just build up this wall of sound around you. And it's like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I did something cooler. But then I probably wouldn't have been on the record. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, you know, fills are for the thrills and what's I'm feeling right. Wait, it's like
that was it.
It's you know, you can.
Well, you won
fix
me
it in
over with the
post.
delivery, so.
Wait, what is it? Hold on.
Fills are for the thrills, 2 and 4 pays the bills. But to go back, so Gunnar, I'm sorry, Eric, you're not going to get any questions today, but I want you to chime in whenever you can. I'm sorry. I haven't caught up with Gunnar in a while.
No, you're good.
So you went back, because this is something I deal with cannons and potentially other bands I work with that have tracks. Sometimes in verses and stuff, the drums are pretty apparent on the record in a certain vibe and a sound, so they keep those in the tracks. But where did you first learn the idea of having the drums in the tracks and then you kind of just adding the embellishment on top of that? Because that was your advice to me at the beginning of Cannons. And so, yeah, where did you get that mindset?
That's a good question. I think it happened somewhat by accident when I played with Fisher Spooner. That was kind of one of the first. Some of it also came from Big Data, but when I played with Fisher Spooner, it was literally like they had success in the early 2000s. And so when we were like, they hadn't played a show in like 15 years, and I somehow got booked to play with them. We played the show at Corona Capital in Mexico, and it's still one of the like highlights of my life. It was just like, I don't know how many shows you guys have played in Mexico, but like the fans are just like nothing I've ever experienced. Like they were just singing it was just a fucking party. They were singing all the words at us. It was just so fun, but they never like made proper like stems. So it was like we were literally playing over maybe even MP3s of like the songs. Matt Mitchell always calls it like hip hop show, where it's like when you'd see like live drummers with hip hop bands, like they're keeping the full thing in and they want a drummer for a little, I mean, it almost just for the looks. So it was a lot of electronic beats, and it's just kind of figuring like, well, what I do like in these verses is just a fucking big 808 clap. So like on the verse, I would just play like rack tom rim, floor tom rim, just like really like exaggerate, just so like it looks cool. And like I knew our sound guy was basically mostly using like overheads. So like I was like, oh, I'm basically like a percussionist. Like there weren't that many fills, but if there is like a fill, like I'll double the fill. On the choruses, I'll add snare. And in the verses, I could like drink a beer and maybe just like play the hi-hat. Or like I brought an SPDS, and like this one song I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna like mime it, because I was like, there's nothing else to do.
Well, you also had, sorry to interrupt, but you had like the little, if I remember from that video, maybe I'm making it up and it's like the Mandela effect, but like a little bleeps and bloops you could hit on the left side.
At one point I got one of those Roland was making, it looks like a single SPDS pad. And it's got a bunch of clap samples and like built-in reverb. So eventually I started bringing that, and then I could like fuck around with that. So I wasn't like, I think I tried plugging in the SPDS and I had the sounds on there, but then they were like, I think like when we got to the show, like we like didn't have power or something. Like the power wasn't working. I was like, I'm just gonna still hit it. I only did it on like one song because it felt kind of silly. But yeah, like I had like a tambourine, and I had like this index percussion called like the hard hat. It kind of sounds like a trap hi-hat.
Yes.
And so just like, what are ways I can like embellish the sound, but like not have it be like super flammy, Which is another thing I've done, like recording. Like if there's a very electronic track that someone loves and they want a little like live drums, I always give them a take where I play everything but the kick, because the kick is the hardest thing to like. I feel like if you're going to leave in a beat and add kick, you're going to either have to quantize it or get really specific with it. So like I'll just send a version with like full kit, no kick drum. And then you get a little of that, like you can compress it, you can add a little bit of energy, but like, that the electronic kick of the beat is the king. So it's like, I'm pretty sure like at the Fisher Spooner shows, they didn't even mic the kick drum. It was just so boomy that it was just
mud. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure like with the overheads and stuff, it probably added this cool like texture. I'm sure he used the kick drum mic, but I'm sure it was very.
He's
very
listening, fucking mortified. He's like, I hope none of my employers listen to this shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, going back to the Exit, and then going back to the Police, and going back to Talking Heads. I mean, all of your influences that wouldn't sound like that. You are very high-end creative. You know what I mean?
Thanks, man. It's nice to hear. I just came back from playing. So I've been playing with this band since I think 2007 called the Dexter Lake Club Band. And there were a bunch of guys who went to Oberlin, and they had a bunch of them had a band called the French Kicks, who were like kind of in that Walkman world.
That's awesome band name.
Our bass players played some with the Walkman, and like eventually like they played a friend's wedding and then another friend's wedding, and like they like kind of found themselves as like this like de facto wedding band. And by the time I started playing with them, we got this write up in the New York Times, and like we were like the anti-wedding wedding band. We were like the band that comes to your wedding, crashes it, drinks all your drinks, rocks out, and like, you know, our guitarist is gonna probably hook up with the bridesmaid, and like so that band still exists. It's not quite as debaucherous now, but so I went and played a wedding last night with them in Vermont, and you know, it was like we like left at like 6 a.m. and I was just like, it was one of those days I was just tired, and you know, I was having some beers, but it was like we were playing outside in a tent, so like I would just, it was the kind of day where you're drinking beer, just making you tired.
Yeah.
And you know, we're playing, like we probably played from 6 to 11, not straight, but it was like a lot of playing. It was a rental kit. The kick drum pedal, like it was the common, it was just like everything you hate, like pedal, like the pedal, like I couldn't get the beater to go back that far, so like it just had no momentum. And you know, I've kind of tried, like in the last 5 to 6 7 years, I've tried to embrace, like, I'm going to play on any kit and find a way to make it work. I'm not like blaming the gear, but it was one of those days and I was just sweaty. I was tired. I just came off this tour where I was a fucking rock star playing with like tracks. And what's fun about jumping back to like playing with these guys is like there is no click and we're just winging it. And that part I fucking love. Like we're playing the Stones, we're playing like, we played a song by Robin, we played like, you know, Jesse's Girl. Like we're playing like Beatles to like, you know, Bizarre Love Triangle, like really fun, like the best songs of all time. So like that part's great. But I was just having these moments last night where I just like, I felt really off. I don't know if it was just like, I'm not used to playing this different kit. It was kind of in my head, and I walked away from the show, like, or the wedding. I walked away just like, I was feeling fucking down on myself, you know, which like I haven't felt in a minute, but it was also like, it kind of felt good in a way. I was like, okay, you know what I'm going to do this week? I'm just going to go and I'm just going to like, I haven't practiced in probably 4 months because I've been on tour, and it's like, I'm just going to go and practice because like the things that were hanging me up last night were just little, like, I could just feel like my brain, like the buffer was, I was buffering too much before my thoughts. Because I've been so used to playing like these 10 songs for the last 3 months. And as fun as it was to not play those 10 songs, I just realized like, oh man, like I've been playing this weird drum kit where my crash is to the left. And like, I was like, I just don't have like this muscle memory of just playing a simple kit. And I think I just kind of assumed it would be in there. And sometimes it's not. I was like, oh, this is great. Like I have something to work on and take me down a peg after like posting like I play with Bruce Springsteen. Like we played fucking Dancing in the Dark, you know. So yeah, it was kind of like a little bit like, oh god, that sucked. But I don't know, it kind of like energized me in this weird, like, I don't know, I've been like working on my mental health the last few months and like trying to look at things a different way. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna like, I'm gonna take this as like a, not a loss, but an opportunity, as they say in the advertising world. Instead of wins and losses, it's wins and opportunities. So just, take your loss as an opportunity and just like, I'm just going to go practice this week, you know, play along to some records and I don't know, maybe pull out like stick control or something weird like that, like I haven't done in like 15 years.
Dude, absolutely, man. Full disclosure. So I got back from a little run with Eve 6 last week, and I had that drum set that I was going to order and then set it up. And 2 days later, then now it's broken, so I'm waiting on the reverb, whatever. All that to say, I haven't played drums since last Saturday, and now it's Sunday. So I haven't played drums in almost 8 days. And
is that long for you?
Well, because, I always either go and it's part of my routine after I go to the gym in the morning. I just go, practice for a few hours. And, it's been weird. I haven't missed it, but not in like a, oh, my God. I mean, I'm working on a lot of other things drum-related, but it's just, I'm fine.
I love to not play the drums for a bit and just like sit down and just see what the hell, like what's the first drum beat you're going to play? You know, like, I mean, for me, it's usually longer than 8. Like I feel like I go 8 days without playing the drums a lot. And maybe that's kind of what I want to work on. Like, I was like, oh, what if I played every day? Like, I haven't done that in a long time, unless I'm on tour and then you're doing the same thing. I'd be curious, like, what the first drum beat you play is, or the first, like, rhythmic thing you do. It'll probably be pretty cool.
I'm in the same kind of position where I've kind of stepped away for the past week. I had like a a crazy string of shows. So I was like, I'm just gonna chill, and that's not something I normally do. I typically do play every day, and this is something we talked about recently, where normally my way of practicing is to work through things and to like practice extra hard when I'm uninspired.
Yeah.
But I have been noticing that time away is so valuable, and I come back. I literally planned. I'm like, I'm gonna practice tomorrow, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing where it's like I have no idea what the first thing I'm gonna play is, but it's gonna be fun.
I was talking about this yesterday at those cover band gigs. If it's like a wedding, we'll always learn like 3 to 5 songs for the couple.
Mm-hmm.
So usually if it's 4 songs, usually 3 of the songs you've heard before. Like there's only so many songs people want to hear, and it's like, usually I've heard them enough that like I can listen to them twice. I'm like, oh yeah, like it's usually a song that like was on MTV when I was a kid, or it's a song that I hear at the bodega, like a Sabrina Carpenter song, or like, so we played like a Sabrina Carpenter song that I hear all the time. And I was like, oh yeah, I know the song. It's cool. I'm not going to name the artist, but we played a song by an artist that is very famous, newer artist. It's one of those artists, I know their name. I couldn't tell you a single song of theirs. So the song was fine, but it was one of those songs, like I listened to it like 4 times earlier in the day yesterday before the gig, played it twice at soundcheck. Leading up to like when they were going to call it, I was like, I could not tell you how this song goes. I just like, I couldn't retain the melodies. Now in situations like that, I'll always have a trick where I'll tell myself, oh, it's this kind of drum beat. Like the beat was like, so it was like, okay, it's almost like,
I'm trying to think of who it is.
It's almost like a Bonham thing sped up, so I was like, it kind of just coasts the whole song. But like the song starts with a vocal part and then a drum fill, and then you come in, and the way the vocal part comes in, Ben, you'll love this. It comes in on a pickup, but I keep hearing it as the 1. So it's like,
oh shit, that's worst case scenario.
It's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a snare fill, but it's a and 1, 2, and so like I just couldn't. It was just, oh my god. So then we did it, and I have no idea if we did it right, but this thing always happens where. So I listened to that song probably 7, 8 times yesterday, rehearsed it twice, played it once. Whole time my brain was not retaining it. Today, I woke up this morning singing the song like crystal clear, the verse, the pre-chorus, the bridge. There's something about, I don't know if it's the human brain, the musician brain, my brain, but I mentioned that, and I told them, I was like, I can't remember the song right now, but I guarantee you tomorrow it's going to be in my head clear as day. And everybody else on the gig was like, oh, that happens to me too. I really want to know, what is that phenomenon? And I think that probably has something to do with like when you're burning out on learning something, how if you give yourself a moment, you'll actually get better at it. There was a Perfect Circle song last year when I was learning the set to play with them that like was fucking driving me crazy. And it was more like a technical thing, like with my foot, and just like, it just wasn't natural to me. And I was doing it every day for like fucking 3 weeks, and I felt awful about it. And then when that tour started, I played like, it was like 20 shows before I finally sat in with them. So I wasn't even like, it was like 3 weeks of intense rehearsal. Then we go on tour. I get to watch Josh just fucking do it easily. And then knowing like, oh, 20
Right.
shows, you'll step in and play this set. And we had like a light, small sound check before that show, but it was really just like, I hope it's still in there. And like, it was all so much easier. The thing I'd been freaking out about, the one song, it was like, oh, I'm playing this. I don't even think it had to do with like me watching him. It's just like, I was starting to like overthink it, where I was getting like, that phrase in baseball, the yips. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, he's got a case of the yips. It's like, it's like a pitcher or a batter. It's almost like they forget how to do it. Like you'll watch like this amazing pitcher, and all of a sudden every pitch is going far to the right, or like the batter, like he's striking out for like a month straight.
You know what? I think I remember hearing that phrase. Remember when Simone Biles at the Olympics like 3 years ago? and she was poised to win the gold, but she had to pull out of the Olympics because she had a really bad fall on like one of the trial things. And then I think that's what they called it. They're like, she has the case of the yips, and just like she could kill herself. Like she forgot how to spin, like, you know,
Last February or whenever I was working on learning those songs, that like I got so in my head about one song that like for like a week, like I was fucking up playing like do that. Like I bought like 2 different kick drum pedals. I changed like the height. I was like, oh, maybe I gotta go see Dave Elitch. Like you know, just like all this stuff that like, you know, everyone's like telling me like, I'm just like And then I said, wait a minute, I'm gonna change to nothing, go on tour and have fun for 2 weeks with my friends, and then sit in once Josh leaves, and it was just there.
I have like a theory about this where it's like sometimes when you practice something and it goes like too well, it's almost like you don't make any mistakes. And then I think it's those moments where I feel like I haven't retained any information. So sort of like your wedding gig thing, you know, where if you like you're working on something and you just like keep screwing it up, then you're actually retaining all that information because you're remembering all these mistakes.
Your brain is figuring out like what went wrong to fix it.
Yeah.
And
you're like
actually
so focused in on all those moments.
Yeah, you're making deeper like neuron connectors because you're like really trying to get it. Yeah.
Like the sports analogy I always use is like, I don't want to go into like a tournament being undefeated, you know? That's like too much pressure. There's just, it's too much.
It's like when you have a really good sound check.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like you go to a club, you have a really good sound check. I'm like, oh, like that went too well. Like no one asked for anything in their monitors. You know, we tried a new song and like we like nailed it the first take. You're like, whoa. Like, I don't know. It's like those sound checks where you're just like, I can't get my fucking click, and you're just like, you run out of time, like you get kicked off before you even play a song. Like that's when you're gonna have the fucking great show.
I don't know why the idea of you yelling, I can't get the fucking click. It's just like it's like a battle.
I'm not proud of it.
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum, and you will find us. The show is edited in part using Isotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at isotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye!